used to do lots of things individually. We would have a social funnel that we'd look at. We would have a search team.
Yeah.
We found that whilst you can do each individual thing amazingly, that the synergies, you really lack that. And so we've had a bit of a restructure, and all to do with bringing everyone together. Because as you say, within silos.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of E-Commerce Speaks with ROI Hunter. I'm here today with Josh Little, the head of social at Incubeta. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
No worries. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I wanted to start by just getting sort of an introduction about you and your company. So can you tell me what does Incubeta do?
Yeah, sure thing. So we would call ourselves a growth partner, which effectively we do a bit of everything around marketing. Traditionally came from a more digital marketing agency background, so focusing in search, social, display, and throughout kind of the years expanded into different countries, expanded into different areas, now doing lots of e-com stuff, CRO, and kind of the newest venture we're moving into is a lot of work around data and data solutions with our data engineering team. So we kind of really look to bring together data, technology, media, and creative, all to basically create bespoke marketing strategies for our clients, and to help them grow as much as we can.
And who are some of those clients? Anyone I know?
Yeah, I mean, there's some big UK names. So we work with Marks and Spencers, who are one of the biggest companies in the UK. Good news. Yes, we work with them. We work with people like Superdrug, Wizz Air, Fat Face, lots of kind of e-com clients, lots of fashion clients. And then creatively, we do work with lots of different people. We've done work with like Netflix and Google and stuff like that. So lots of stuff going on across lots of different offices.
So could you walk me through then, like a typical day in the office? You get in, let's say yesterday, what's something you would discuss in your Monday morning meeting?
Yeah, sure. So on a Monday morning, I meet up with all our other heads of channels. So I head up the social team, but we do like head of search, head of display, head of analytics. We'll all get together and talk about what's going on in the industry, any big topics that we need to work on. So, I mean, a big topic for yesterday was all of the privacy changes that are coming up with Google and Google Chrome and cookies and everything like that.
Yeah.
So lots of chat around that. Work around our clients. Are there any things that are going on with them that we could all work together on? And then just teams and how that's going. So very much focusing on across teams as much as possible. We like to think, well, we are connected specialists. So as much as possible, I want my team to be working with all our other teams. And so that means really there to kind of bring those together, and then just chatting to my team, what problems we're seeing, any client performances, areas of support, those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, working with the other teams, because we found with the retailers we talk with as well, the more departments are able to communicate and collaborate with each other to really come up with cross everything strategies, the better they tend to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really what we're aiming for, and that's been our big push across the last couple of years, is to be that partner. Because as within the social team that I started about 5 or 6 years ago, we used to do lots of things individually. We would have a social funnel that we'd look at. We would have a search team.
Yeah.
We found that whilst you can do each individual thing amazingly, that the synergies, you really lack that. And so we've had a bit of a restructure, and all to do with bringing everyone together. Because as you say, within silos, we all kind of lack a little bit of data. Exactly. And so if we can bring that together, that's just going to help us, and we've seen great results of doing that.
Definitely. Yeah. The more everyone's working from the same page, the better
100%.
you're going to be able to do. So I know you mentioned just now, like the Google cookie situation, which I know we're waiting on for 2024 now. What are some of the other challenges that your clients tend to face? Is there some common ones that a lot of different retailers out there might be going through?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big challenge for a lot of our clients is that segmented approach that you might get across working with lots of different teams, lots of different agencies. You often have, with some of our bigger clients, you'll have a different brand team as opposed to an e-com team, and just the challenges that face. And so a lot of what we try and do is to work with lots of different departments. When we have a client who we've recently run a training session with their finance team to help them understand what's going on, so that will hopefully help with decisions down the line. I mean, fingers crossed. But yeah, so I think kind of that segmentation is a big challenge that we try and help our clients with. For me, specifically on paid social, measurement and kind of proving the value is always, I guess, what I spend about 70% of my job doing is working with clients and working with senior
Sure.
stakeholders to help prove that value. And obviously, with as we start going towards cookies going, I think that a lot of that will go into the other channels as well, display and Google. So for me, a lot of measurement chat. I think that's what I find quite interesting and what clients tend to want to be chatting to me about.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, measuring, yeah, attribution, making sure something's working is always going to be a big issue, a big
Yeah.
challenge. Are there some challenges for Incubeta itself? Because I know we talked to your clients' challenges. What sort of stuff are you guys working through?
Yeah, I mean, I guess somewhat candidly, like the market is as a whole is obviously in a challenging position right now.
I had heard
Lots
that.
of
Yeah.
yeah, lots of clients are trying to push as much on profitability. They might look to reduce costs. They might, and that's in some ways might be against some of the strategies that we've been working with them on for a little bit. And so how do we make sure we're being responsive to our clients, but also helping them out in the long term? So that's a fine thing to balance, but depending on obviously as you're in the market, you need to do what you need to do. So there's
Definitely.
no challenges there. So that's a big one for us. And I think the general kind of consolidation piece of as you even like running media. So I know we might like with ASE, PMAX, all of those things. It's harder for an agency, a traditional agency, to try and prove their value to a client. And so we're working quite a lot on how do we make ourselves stand out as the industry become more standardized, and how can we really add value to our clients and be that growth partner that we strive to be.
Yeah, definitely. Now, have you noticed a big change in how you're working with social media with the introduction of Performance Max and Advantage Plus shopping campaigns in the last few years?
Yeah, I think it's been something that's been gradually happening for a while.
Sure.
We came from a old performance search agency, and so when we did our social offering, a lot of how we used to structure campaigns and run campaigns was built from maybe an old school search background,
Mhm.
and we saw really good success with that, and we were able to go really granular campaigns, go really audience focused, and see some really great results. But gradually, that way of working has become weaker and weaker, and it's just not really been what grows clients anymore. And
Sure.
so that shift towards taking away from the more audience granular focused and towards the more consolidated focus, the more creative piece, has been something that's been gradually happening. And then obviously ASC takes that to another level, putting everything into one campaign and letting it go. As
Yep.
an agency is quite scary, because then you're like, well, what are we going to do? But I think through lots of testing and lots of strategic thinking about things, I think there's definitely a strong place for it. But I would say it's part of a bigger strategy, what you're doing within social or whatever you're doing within search with PMAX. Like there's lots of things that are going on, and that's a key piece, but it's only a piece that you need to fit around if you want to see true growth.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's a lot of what my company ROI Hunter tries to do is working
Yeah.
with Performance Max and ASC to kind of restore that. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, yeah, granularity, the level of
Yeah.
visibility and control that you would have with the benefits of having something that really takes a lot of the work out of it for you and
Yeah, definitely.
finds the best placements.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I think, oh, sorry. No,
no,
no.
no, after you, please.
Yeah, because I think like the challenge I have with ASC sometimes is that, and I guess PMAS,
Sure.
is not always the biggest ROAS or the biggest return on ad spend isn't always the best thing for the client.
Yeah.
So a good case study, good use case we use alongside ROI Hunter, without wanting to be too marketing-y, is to like just make sure that we're separating out our BUs, because we run with M&S and they're very known for women's wear.
Yeah.
And so the most profitable thing for us to do would be to put all the money into that.
Hmm.
Whereas that's not the best thing for the client. And so how do we work alongside ASC, feed data through to be able to pull those levers as much as possible? And I think that's where it's really important, because you want to look not just at short term, but also long term growth.
Yeah. And that's something where, as long as you can have the control over it, you can put your own
Yeah,
business priorities and strategy into it while still taking advantage of the coolness that it offers,
indeed. Yeah,
to use a technical term.
yeah. Indeed.
Uh, Now, just for you personally, since you've been head of social, you have a lot of experience there. Is there a particular social campaign that stood out that you're particularly proud of over your time there?
Yeah, sure. So I don't think I'm allowed to name the actual client because they're quite restricted on the things they do.
For sure.
But
Yeah, keep
so
that.
there's a client that we work with who we do a lot of their international expansion.
Yeah.
They're a UK business, and they had a approach of how they wanted to do this, and what we did was ingested all their data and looked at some external data within the market and within the countries themselves,
Hmm.
and built a algorithm which looked to rank each country based on complexity and profitability. And that effectively gave us two scores that we could plot against an axis. And we use that to kind of do a BCG type, these like really like start like to
Hmm.
rank each country down. And then based on how that ranking looked, we would create a specific marketing plan behind it. So one that's quite low complexity and quite high profitability, you probably want to go full funnel because it's a really big opportunity for us. Ones who are high complexity, low profitability,
Sure.
in just having a bit of like retargeting on there is probably fair enough. It's not going to be those great growth efforts. And for me, I really enjoyed that project because it was really working alongside the client. They had an idea of what they thought were the best countries they should go for. Actually, from this analysis, there was
Mhm.
definitely countries they were over indexing and some they are under indexing in. And we've been able to work alongside them to shift what their focus is and see some great results on the back of it. So yeah, I think that goes beyond a little bit of just running activities for them and a bit more into the data side, which I find interesting, and also
Yeah.
being strategic.
It brings, yeah, an additional layer of complexity to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just adds onto it. Now, again, for you personally, when you're looking for ways to keep up with the e-commerce industry, how do you like to do it? Because like for me personally, like I look around, I read LinkedIn and look at articles, maybe listen to podcasts, but I'm always curious how other people get their news and their updates.
Yeah, so I mean, a big one for me is LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I follow quite a lot of people who, and people who I've previously worked with who post some lots of interesting stuff, and there's lots of great stuff you can get on there. So I'd say that's a big part of what I do.
yeah,
And then, and this might be a little bit sad, but my Apple News I don't really use for like
sure.
news. So I've like tailored that to be like a digital marketing thing. So every kind of week I'll just go onto that, and
Yeah.
the algorithm's designed to basically just push the social and
See what the
the
newest.
yeah. So and I can go through that and try and find bits and pieces through that, which I find is quite useful.
Yeah.
And I find that because so that's probably how I do it mostly.
And is that something, would you use similar things like LinkedIn if like say you're researching a new topic, there's a new form of strategy out there, a new way to use ASC.
Yeah.
Would you go find articles or ebooks, or would you be looking more into like webinars, videos, or just posts on LinkedIn?
I'd probably find it from LinkedIn and just like to
Yeah,
see what people are doing. But I try and go to as many webinars as I can. Like I'm normally in like one a week just to
yeah,
keep on top of what's going on. I think they're really good and easy things to share around afterwards. So I'd always probably explore through like LinkedIn, and there's normally someone on YouTube who's maybe
mhm,
got something they're talking about in that way, and whether that's in a podcast or whether that's in their own thing. And then yeah, try and get to the partners, find webinars that are the most relevant, and go to as many of those as I can do.
definitely. Great. Yeah, that's actually something that's been coming up a lot with the people that I've been talking to is that a lot of people are getting their information from groups on social media, from listening in on webinars, podcasts, things like that, which is interesting. I remember when I was first starting, it was a lot more the written word, and now it's a lot more the spoken and the video word.
Yeah, yeah. Easy to have on in the background whilst I'm doing something else. But
Exactly.
I should read a bit more. I should read a bit more.
Eh, yeah, you can do them both.
Yeah.
Now we touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but one of the things that we've been talking a lot with our clients about is a renewed focus on profitability in e-commerce. Just with the state of the economy, with interest rates the way they are, it's no longer this sort of growth economy that we've had for the last 15 years. I just love to know, yeah, your thoughts on that and what you've been seeing with your clients.
Yeah. I think in general, there's all of our clients have had somewhat of a shift towards focusing more on profitability.
Yeah,
There's been a bit of a sliding scale because we've got some startups all the way to some of the biggest brands in the country. So it's either been we need to completely shift our focus and move purely on profitability, and anything that we're doing that doesn't necessarily sit in that space for now, we just need to kind of move away from it. I think for example, TikTok, for example, which
Yeah.
is a really interesting platform and there's lots of cool stuff going on there. And I really want to push as much as we can on there, but it's ultimately not a short-term profitable channel generally, from what we see compared to other places. And so there might be ones who turn off channels and move everything towards that side. And whilst that might be a little bit harsh as a head of social, that's not something I want to do, but you've got to read the room and just see right now it's best for business, it's best for, you want to make sure you're providing faith in that channel. On the other side, there's always been some movement to profitability. So whether that's just we need to really make sure our performance side is doing as much as it can do and how can we push more out of this. But there's also that element of, without wanting to sound too cliche, it is a bit of an opportunity because people are pushing out of the more upper funnel spaces. There is a reductions in cost. There is a little bit cheaper. So for clients who are more established and have that budget behind them, then it's the how do we absolutely time what we're doing down here, but try and make the most of the opportunity from those companies who aren't able to grasp it at the minute, given everything that's going on.
Great. Great. Well, Josh, the last thing that I wanted to discuss with you is just if there's any general advice that you, as head of social, as someone who's looked into this for a long time, might have for retailers out there.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I've learned across the last couple of years, and the big focus for me has been you're only going to get as much out of your activity and your marketing as the quality of data that you put into it.
Yeah.
And I think there's always been a bit of a focus on how do we just do our marketing well, and like the marketing and the media mix has been the biggest thing in the middle. But the outside elements, which in the past had been just feeding in and being like quite important, like data analytics, all of those things, they've always been important. But like that, the centerpiece has always been that media and how do I efficiently run my campaigns as much as possible, or what's the right mix for me to have. But that's just so much less important now, and it's all about the data that are coming in because it's so fueled by the algorithm. So making sure that anything that you think could be useful and you're maybe using in your offline or you're using in your audience personas, that you're not necessarily thinking about how am I plugging that into my digital, for example. That all should be stuff that's pulling through, looking at those trends, looking at kind of beefing up that data. Like how are you pulling in your search impressions and your search data into your social campaigns? How are you pushing your social messaging that's doing well into your SEO, for example? All of that data that you're kind of sitting on separately, as much as you can put it together. That's where we're seeing the success, not only from a measurability point of view, by like being able to get into things like MMM and areas like that, but just from a quality of activity that you're doing. It's so important now to have like a full data audit of what you're doing and really see what's going into that.
Yeah, so we've come full circle then. We're bringing, just like we're bringing all the departments together in collaboration, all the data together.
Exactly. I'm all about not just talking about social. I'd love to work with the other teams, and I think that's often where people will go wrong. And so bringing everything together is definitely the way forward.
Yeah, just as like before, the more you can get it all on the same page, get everything in line and working together, the better you can do.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, hey, Josh, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope to talk with you again soon.
Amazing. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me.